And I want to read from the book of John 6 and 11. And it says, Then Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks to God, and distributed them to the people. Afterward, he did the same with the fish, and they ate all as much as they wanted. And today, I'm just grateful for life. I'm grateful for health and strength. I'm grateful for my wife. I'm grateful for my children. As noisy as they are and waking me up in the morning, I'm still grateful for them. Grateful for each and every one of you. Grateful for opportunity. Grateful for. So it's just so much things to be grateful for, man. I say the same lines every morning, but I truly, truly mean that. Um, in this particular verse, so let me tell you all how I got to go to this particular verse. So I was watching, um, I think it was either a TikTok reel, like a Christian TikTok reel, or it was one of those reels on Facebook, right? And this guy was like speaking, and he was like, there's a cheat code that no one really sorts to follow, and he's like, God shows you that, there's a way that you could get anything that you want from God. But he was like, it's tons of examples in the Bible, blah, 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 blah. And he said that he went through this whole video, and then at the end, he said, all it is saying two words, is thank you. And then he said, this is these verses, go look at these verses and look at these verses. And I decided to go and look at it. And in this particular part of the scripture, it was something that I noticed about it, right? And it was that Jesus thanked God for not just all the blessings as a whole, you know what I mean? He thanked God for every little blessing. In this particular part of the scripture, he said that he gave thanks to God. He took the loaves of bread. Obviously, this is a story everyone should be familiar with it when he was feeding the 5,000. And he took the loaves and he gave thanks to God, right? After he distributed it, right? They said he did the same with the fish, and they ate all as much as they wanted. And the thing about that is that it's so important for us, like, to not forget God throughout our entire journey. you know like, you thank him for the small things, you thank him for the big things, you thank him for the good things, you thank him for the bad things, but at the end of the day, you always give thanks to God for every single blessing that you have received. Just being able to experience a life lesson is a blessing. Just being able to go through hardship sometimes is a blessing, because the dead don't go through nothing. And just the fact that God has chosen you to be alive, to go through something and to gain strength through something. Listen to me, man. This week was one of the most stressful weeks I think I've ever had. you know um I've worked in the shipping industry for 25 years of my life. Never owned a vessel, but owning a vessel is a different animal, because one of the things that a lot of people don't see behind closed doors is that you have a lot of persons' souls in your custody. you know and in the maritime industry, that's what we refer to persons on once they go out to sea, refer to them as souls. And it's so important for you to just try to make sure that your vessel is well maintained, that these guys have the right safety equipment, that that where they go in good weather. And this is a true story. There was as everyone knows, there was a Cat 5 hurricane out there, and we had a delivery to make, and we had these customers who were sort of like pushing. They was like, hey, we needed to get here before the storm. And I was following and watching the storm, and all of I talking every single weather meter we had told us that the weather would have been good for 3 days prior, 3 to 4 days prior to the storm, because obviously the pressure sucks the air out, you know what I mean, keeps the seas pretty calm. But I prayed on it, and I was like, God, I don't feel good about this. Um, I really don't feel well about this. And then I just made the decision, that over overstep my boundaries with my marine managers, with the captain of the vessel, all of them. And I told them, I say, listen, this boat ain't going nowhere. Leave this park right at the dock. The extra expenses and fuel, whatever it is, we can cover it. Just don't worry about it. We can do it. And during that time, because we were going right around Long Island, Exuma area, and those were the same areas that end up getting sort of directly affected in the Bahamas. And we end up leaving after the storm, and we realized that the ship was moving a lot slower than what we had anticipated, meaning that if we had sent them off those 3 days, they would have been directly in the middle of that storm. And this is why, like, I always have to give God thanks and praise and give him all the glory, because it's so important, number one, too, to listen to the discernment of your spirit. And then it's also so important to give thanks to God for all of these things. You know what I mean? Like, the I name my company Origins because I dedicated it to God. He's the origin, he's the source, he's the creator. Because through him, this wouldn't have even been possible, you know? And I the whole time, even when they was moving, I was praying. I was just like, God, keep them safe, you know what I mean? And now they coming back today, and I doing the same thing and praying and saying, God, keep them safe on their journey back. Sorry, everyone. Because again, it is so important for you to give God thanks and the glory and the praise. Sorry for speaking a little bit longer than normal today, everyone. I'm Kerry, and I pass my mic back to the moderator.